My name is Paige. I'm a teen mom to my 1-month-old daughter, Oakland. Today I'm going to be telling the story of how I found out I was 17 pregnant. I found out I was pregnant on January 17th, 2019. At the time I was living with my aunt in my grandmother's basement, and it was probably a Thursday that I took the test. So the week prior to that, I had been feeling really sick, and I had to miss like 3 days of school because I just was so sick I couldn't even get the energy to get out of bed. So I decided that since I wasn't practicing safe sex, that I should probably go get a pregnancy test because my period was late. So my boyfriend and I went and got a pregnancy test the Wednesday before the 17th, and so on the 17th I woke up and decided that it was time to take a pregnancy test. It was about 5 in the morning, and I remember I went in, peed on the stick, and I just took it to my room and sat it face down on my dresser and just started getting ready for school because I knew I had to be getting ready, and I couldn't really focus. I was like stumbling around my bedroom. I was so nervous and scared, and so a few minutes went by. I think it said to wait like 3 minutes. So the time was up and my phone timer went off, and so I went and looked over at the test, and as soon as I flipped it over, it was the boldest plus sign I had ever seen. So I decided to take the other test just to see if it was right. It came in a pack of 2. So I took the other test, and yet again, it said positive. Yeah. And so after that, I don't know, I like froze, and I was just staring at this test, and I was like, oh my gosh. And I went over to my aunt because my aunt and I are really close, and I didn't know who else to talk to, and I was just in such shock. So I went over and I showed her the test, and I couldn't even speak. I just handed her the test, and I was like, look, it says positive, I'm pregnant. And she looks at me and she's just like, oh my god, I knew it. And I was like, you knew it? How? And she was like, you've been really moody, and you missed your period, and you've been sick. And I was just like, oh, okay. And my mom didn't live with us at the time, but she was staying with us that night, ironically. So I remember taking the test, going with my aunt because I couldn't build up enough courage to go tell her by myself, over to my mom where she was sleeping, and I woke her up, which was probably a mistake. So I woke her up and I said, Mom, I'm pregnant. And she jumps out of bed and was like, what? So I showed her the test and I was like, yeah, it says positive. And she was like, great, Paige. She just spit up everywhere. Oh no. It's okay. So she was like, great, what are you gonna do? My mom was very blunt, and she basically told me right then and there she was very mad at me and that she didn't want to talk to me. And I really wanted my mom at that time because I just found out this news and I didn't know what to think. I was 17, I was young, and I just wanted to know, like, what do I do, Mom? Like, right then and there, I was like, oh my god, what do I do? So I decided to just basically forget about it. I put it in the back of my mind and thought I could just forget about it. So I finished getting ready for school. I was finally all done, and I called my boyfriend and said, I'm ready, can you come pick me up for school? I need to ride to school. And I also need to tell you something. So he came in. He never comes in like when he picks me up in the morning, but he did, and I think it's because he heard my voice that something was wrong because I was shaky as I was saying to come pick me up. And I was just sitting on my bed putting on my shoes, and I look over at him and he's like nervous, and I was like, why do you look like that? You have no idea what I have to tell you yet. And he was just like, I don't know, because it doesn't sound good. So I showed him the test and he didn't say anything. He just started smiling and was like, wow, so we're having a baby. And I was like, yeah, I guess. And that was that. That was all really his reaction. He was just happy from the moment he saw it. Anyway, after that, I went to school all day long and I could not stop thinking about it. I remember having several like breakdowns and having to go to the bathroom, and I just cried to myself. And I had makeup like running down my face, and I would try and wipe it off, but it just went everywhere. And I had to sit in class while holding this in because I didn't want to tell anyone. I didn't trust anybody. So I just kept it to myself, and I broke down several times the rest of the day. At lunch, I couldn't even eat because I just felt so like shocked. It wasn't even from the pregnancy that I felt sick. I think I was just in pure amazement and like I was scared. So I couldn't eat lunch, and I just sat there and had a blank stare the entire time because all of this was just running through my head. I barely did any of my work that day. I just sat in class and cried and stared at my paper and took several trips to the bathroom. So I got home that day and my mom was still there. So I said, I want to sit down and talk to you because I need someone to talk to. And she says, okay. So we sit down and start talking, and she says, I just want you to know that I was half asleep earlier whenever I reacted, and that's not how I meant to react. And I was like, oh, thank God, because I thought you were super mad at me and never wanted to talk to me again. And immediately I started feeling okay again. And she says, it's going to be okay, but you got to start planning things. You got to have your boyfriend help you because you're not going to do this alone. And even if you do, it's going to be really hard. And she says, I'm going to be here for you. So I felt better. And she says, we have to call the doctor and make an appointment. So I did. And then that was that. So when the appointment came, which I believe I went 2 days later, in my head I was thinking, I don't really believe the pregnancy test that you buy from the store and pee on. This isn't true. It was all just a big fluke. Well, I took their test, their blood test, and it said positive. Well, I was probably about, I think it was 4 weeks pregnant when the test came back positive. And yeah, so I can do a story time on all of my family's reactions because I have some family that they were extremely excited from the beginning, and I have some family where it wasn't such a great reaction, and I would have to probably get there okay, but I think I could get my mom's reaction and possibly my baby daddy's reaction on camera also. If that's something you'd want to see, comment down below and subscribe because I'm going to start posting every Wednesday, and this is going to be a long journey and a pretty interesting journey as we go through this little one's life, and I'm going to try and document as much of it as I can because this is something that we want to look back on someday and remember. I also would like suggestions on videos also. So if you can comment that down below also. So subscribe and like this video, and me and my beautiful baby say